There is a silence that speaks louder than thunder. It walks with the wise, sits in quiet corners of powerful rooms, and dances behind the knowing eyes of those who've seen too much to speak too soon. There are stories etched in silence, engraved not with ink, but with invisible scars beneath the skin. You will meet people who smile so easily, laugh so freely, and nod with grace in conversations. But you would never know that just behind their eyes, there lives a room full of unspoken sorrow. Smart people, those who have walked through storms and still stand tall, learn early that not all pain is meant to be spoken, not because they are ashamed of it, no, but because they have discovered that pain, when nurtured properly, becomes sacred, a sanctuary, and not everyone should be allowed to enter. You see, there is a kind of pain that reshapes the soul, the type that visits in the night when the world has gone still, curling itself around the heart like ivy, whispering old memories like lullabies no one wants to hear. This pain doesn't always come from tragedy loud enough to echo. Sometimes it's born from quiet neglect, from promises broken in small ways over many years, or from loving people who could never love you back in full. And those who are truly wise, they don't wear this pain on their sleeves. They do not bleed in public, because they've learned that some wounds, when exposed too soon, become entertainment for the wrong audience. The world can be cruel with fragile truths. It will either pity you or use your vulnerability to write a story about itself. So instead, they protect their pain, they shelter it, they water it in silence until it flowers into wisdom. This is not cowardice, it is discernment, a quiet kind of power. Because when you have been broken and have chosen to build yourself in private, your strength becomes unshakable. You are no longer performing your healing for applause. You are no longer asking others to validate your hurt. You've learned to carry it with elegance, like a stone in your pocket, not to weigh you down, but to remind you of the weight you've learned to live with. And it is not that they never speak of it. Sometimes they do, but only in spaces soft enough to hold it, only with people who have earned the right to hear it, because some stories are too tender to be told to just anyone. They belong to late-night conversations, whispered between souls who understand the language of wounds. These people have discovered that when you walk around with open cuts, too many hands try to touch. Some mean well, some are just curious, but even well-meaning hands can infect a healing place. So the wise keep their deepest pain behind quiet eyes and half smiles, trusting only those who know how to sit beside pain without trying to fix it or make it smaller. They also understand that true empathy is not always birthed from shared pain, but from understood silence. That a nod, a look, or a presence can sometimes say more than 1,000 words ever could. So they become fluent in that language, the unspoken one, and they offer that gift to others too. They see someone hurting and they don't always say, "Tell me everything." Sometimes they just sit close and whisper, "I see you." Their pain, though hidden, becomes their compass. It teaches them how to walk gently through other people's grief. It trains them to listen not just with ears, but with hearts. And it reminds them every single day that everyone is fighting battles invisible to the eye. So they judge less, speak softer, offer kindness more freely, not because they are trying to be saints, but because they remember what it felt like to bleed behind closed doors and still be expected to smile in public. They carry this pain into boardrooms, into classrooms, into relationships and routines, not as victims, but as architects of resilience. You may not see the pain, but you will see its fingerprints on how they show up in the world, the way they pause before responding, the way they check on others without being asked, the way they walk away from arguments, not because they can't fight, but because they know peace is more precious than pride. And if you're lucky enough to know one of these people, truly know them, you'll begin to understand that the light they radiate didn't come from an easy life. It came from being burned and learning how to shine anyway. This is what makes their silence so loud, what makes their presence feel like home, what makes their love so deep and healing. Because they have seen the edge of despair and still chose tenderness. They have been disappointed by people they trusted and still believe in the goodness of others. They have carried the weight of sorrow in their chest and still breathe compassion into every room they enter. No, they do not tell you everything, but if you look closely, if you listen gently, you will hear their story in the way they hold space for yours. And that is a kind of wisdom that no book can teach. Some things are too sacred to speak aloud. Some dreams are too tender, too alive to be laid bare beneath the gaze of those who would not understand. The wisest among us, the truly smart, carry their grandest visions in silence. Not because they lack courage, but because they respect the weight of what they hold. You may walk beside them, sit across from them, laugh and share meals, but you will not know the full extent of what they are building. They will speak of their goals in general terms. They might say, "I'm working on something," or "I have a few ideas," and they will smile in that way that both reveals and conceals. And you may think they are modest, perhaps even cautious, but what they are, truly, are guardians of vision. For they understand this. The moment you speak a dream too soon, it becomes exposed to winds that can blow it off course. Words have power, yes, but timing is the steward of that power. To utter something before it is ready to be heard, to share it before it has roots, is to risk watching it wither under eyes that do not see its value. So they protect their ambitions like seeds buried deep in the soil. You won't find them shouting from rooftops or posting every plan before it breathes. They have learned that too much light too early can scorch new growth. And they've also seen how quickly excitement can be mistaken for arrogance, how quickly doubt can be cast by those who fear the size of another's dream. They remember the times they dared to speak too soon, when their vision was met not with support, but with silence, or worse, skepticism disguised as concern. That's a bit ambitious, don't you think? You sure you want to try that? Those words, while often well-meaning, can stick to the heart like thorns. They bruise the boldness before it's fully formed. So now they choose silence, not to hide, but to honor the sacred process of becoming. Because real ambition is not loud. It does not require a crowd to validate its worth. It grows in quiet rooms, behind closed doors, beneath the light of discipline and the water of intention. It matures while others sleep, whispering softly, "Keep going," when no one is watching. It is a conversation between soul and self, and it is far too personal to be placed carelessly in the mouths of strangers. You might look at them and wonder if they lack drive. You might think they're content with the ordinary, but what you do not see are the blueprints folded neatly in their minds, the hours spent refining, recalibrating, recommitting. They are not dreaming small, they are dreaming deeply, and deep things move slowly, deliberately, with purpose. They have ambitions that do not fit on resumes. Desires that can't be condensed into a clever sentence or sold to others for approval. Their dreams are layered, woven with purpose, painted in the colors of legacy and meaning. They're not chasing applause. They are building something that will outlive it. You see, ambition for them is not about conquest. It is about contribution. It is not about climbing over others, but about rising in a way that lifts others too. Their ambition is not shiny, it is not shallow. It is a quiet fire that burns in the core, asking not, "How can I win?" but "What can I give that only I was born to give?" So they move quietly. You may see them reading while others party, working while others sleep, listening while others boast. They have no need to prove themselves. Their validation comes from within, and because of this, their energy is magnetic. You can feel it when they walk into a room, not because they demand attention, but because they do not need it. They have learned to live in the tension between patience and pursuit. They know some things take time. They've given themselves permission to move at their own rhythm. They are not in a race, they are in a process, and that process is sacred. And make no mistake, they will arrive, not with a trumpet, not with fanfare, but with the quiet confidence of someone who stayed faithful to a vision the world didn't see coming. And when they do, people will say, "I had no idea." But they will smile, not in arrogance, but in peace, because they always knew. They knew that the dream was real. They knew that the silence was necessary. They knew that the waiting was holy. And they knew, above all, that their truest ambition was not just to succeed, but to become the kind of person who could hold the weight of the dream with grace, with wisdom, and with power. Because in the end, it was never just about achieving something. It was about being someone whose silence was full of fire, someone whose journey was not a performance, someone who knew that what is meant to rise does not need to shout to do so. There is a kind of wisdom that does not speak unless the room is quiet enough to hear it. It does not rush to interrupt, does not tremble with the need to be proven right, and does not wear the need for attention like a badge. It sits softly like an elder under a tree, content to watch, to wait, and to speak only when the speaking will serve. Those who carry such wisdom do not empty their hearts at every opportunity. They have learned through experience and endurance that knowledge is not meant for everyone, and not every truth belongs in every ear. There are some lessons too powerful, too personal, too potent to be thrown into casual conversation, and so they choose silence, not out of fear or pride, but out of deep, reverent understanding. They have learned that just because something is true does not mean it is timely. Just because they can say something doesn't mean they should. They have come to know that wisdom has a rhythm, and to speak too soon is to miss the moment. And so they hold their peace like a river holds its current, strong, deep, and steady beneath the surface. These are the people who have walked through enough fire to know when to keep their matches dry. They do not ignite every debate. They do not engage every challenge, for they have seen that not every raised voice is an invitation to speak, and not every listener has the ears to hear. And so they save their words. They save them for when they can do the most good, for when they can heal, uplift, or gently correct with dignity and grace. To carry the fullness of wisdom is to live with restraint, to know more than you say and to feel more than you show. It is to sit at a table where arguments rise like smoke and yet choose not to fan the flame. It is to hold 1,000 answers on the tip of your tongue and to offer only the one that is necessary, the one that is kind, the one that is true. The wise know that the loudest person in the room is rarely the one to follow. They have studied human nature, not from books alone, but from life. They have listened to heartbreak echo in silence. They have watched trust crumble when truth was handled carelessly. They know what it means to be misunderstood, to be dismissed, to be seen as quiet when in fact they are simply discerning. So they speak when the room is ready and not a moment before. This kind of wisdom does not strive to be clever. It does not chase applause. It is not interested in winning arguments or dazzling crowds. It is quiet, but not weak, gentle, but not fragile. It is powerful in the way rivers carve valleys, slowly, persistently over time. It is the kind of power that changes lives without needing credit. And those who carry it, they often appear ordinary. You might walk past them 100 times without noticing. They are not always dressed in authority. Their voices may be soft, their presence unassuming, but if you sit with them long enough, if you watch the way they navigate the world, you will sense it. You will see it in the way they pause before they speak, in the way they make space for others to be heard, in the way they ask questions that pull answers out of your own heart. They don't force their perspective upon you. They offer it like a gift, wrapped in humility, placed gently before you without demand. And when you unwrap it, you find not just knowledge, but depth, compassion, and insight that was clearly shaped not by theory alone, but by living and loving and losing and learning. Their wisdom is not just in their words, it's in their choices. It's in how they treat those with less power, how they handle success without arrogance, how they respond to betrayal without becoming bitter. They have learned to walk away from noise and stillness alike without the need to explain themselves, because they know that peace is more valuable than pride and understanding more precious than victory. And they do not give everything away, because the fullness of their wisdom is not for show. It is not a performance. It is a reservoir that they guard carefully, pouring only into cups that are ready to receive, into hearts that are open to grow. They have learned that even the finest water will go wasted in a cracked vessel, so they choose where and how to share. Some may misjudge them. Some may say they are secretive, aloof, or too quiet. But the wise do not live for the interpretations of others. They live in alignment with purpose. They speak when their words are meant to serve, not to impress. They do not need the world to know all that they know, for their wisdom is not currency, it is calling. And while others race to be heard, the wise stay rooted. While others post every thought, every plan, every revelation, the wise hold some truths close, like sacred songs meant only for solitude. They understand that silence can be protection, that mystery can be a kind of strength, and that some of the most important things in life cannot be spoken at all. They must be felt, lived, experienced. Their wisdom shows up in their patience, in the way they do not rush to fix, but instead sit with the problem until it reveals its own solution. In the way they do not dominate conversations, but leave space for insight to arise from all directions. In the way they do not seek to be right, but to be whole. They choose integrity over image, truth over trend, clarity over chaos. And if you are ever lucky enough to be trusted by one of these souls, if they choose to open the vault and let you glimpse the treasure they carry, know that you are standing in a sacred place. Know that what they share has been earned through years of watching, wondering, and waiting, and understand that even then, even when they give you their truth, they are giving you only what you're ready to hold, because they still carry more, much more, not because they are hiding it, but because they know that real wisdom isn't loud and it isn't fast. It is deep and slow and endlessly unfolding. It is a quiet knowing that lives in the marrow, not the mouth, and so they guard it, not from the world, but for the world, waiting, watching, and speaking, only when it truly matters. So, my dear listener, don't mistake silence for emptiness. Don't chase noise, thinking it means power. Some of the most intelligent souls you will ever meet carry their wisdom like sacred fire, too hot to hand out, too holy to waste. You do not need to tell everything you know. You do not need to prove how smart you are. Let your life speak. Let your presence be your punctuation. Let the world wonder, what does that one know that they're not saying? Because the most brilliant people, they speak when it matters. They act when it counts, and they shine without shouting.